Welcome to Literary Libations with Librarians. And this week we are talking about nonfiction that has changed us, whether it's in big ways or small ways. As we talk, if you are interested in getting your hands on any of the titles that we share, they will appear on your screen as we talk about them, and it will list all the various formats that they are available in. The quickest way to get a copy is probably to call your local branch of the Monroe County Library System and talk to the staff there about how to get a copy of the title you're interested in. If you'd like to do it on your own, you can always go to our online catalog. That address is on your screen now, and that will allow you to get physical formats, hardcovers, paperbacks, audiobooks on CD, large print. And we will also have some that are available through our digital platforms, and we have two of those. The first is Overdrive, and the app for Overdrive is called Libby, so you can search for that in your app store. And Overdrive provides downloadable ebooks and audiobooks, and it also now provides downloadable magazines. And there's also Hoopla, our other platform, and Hoopla has downloadable ebooks, audiobooks, movies, music, and graphic novels. And the great thing about Hoopla is that there is never a wait for anything that you see on there. You can begin downloading and reading and listening immediately. And my name is Jennifer Graneski. I am the community librarian at the Dundee branch. And our introductory question this week, since we're talking about books that changed us, is this also is the time of year where people start thinking about, what do I want to change in this year? What do I want to do differently? So you might have made a resolution at the beginning of the year. You might have set some goals. And we're going to share some of those and maybe how they're going, if we set any at all. Mine is probably the same as it was last year, and then last year happened. And it actually made it sort of better. Like, I think I did better, but mine is to be more present in each moment. As a person, I am a planner. And so when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I start thinking about are all of the things I have to get done today and how they're going to happen. And, oh, this thing needs to get switched here, and I got to get this done, and I got to get this. And so then when I'm actually doing the thing, oftentimes my mind is not engaged in that thing. It is engaged in, well, I got to get this done by this time so that way I can get the next thing done. So I am learning to be more present and to try and take those moments. I have an app called Headspace that's helping me learn how to do that. And just things that they tell you to think about during the day. One of the things that I thought was really interesting was they challenged us to think about how many times you stand up during the day and to notice it when you do so. So when you stand up to go somewhere, say in your head, not out loud, people think you're nutty, I stood up, my body is moving. And so, okay, yeah, I can do that, I can do that. Nope, literally stood up from listening to my meditation, didn't think about it until the next day when they were like, so how'd you do? And I was like, oh, not great. So that's kind of one of those little exercises that I've been trying just to be more aware of. I'm here right now, be here instead of with the next thing. So that's mine. Also with us this week is Ashley Lyford, the community librarian at the Summerfield Petersburg branch. And have you made any resolutions for this year or goals, Ashley?
Yes, I made a resolution, but I just, actually last year helped me too. I just really want to be more active. I want to make sure I do something active every day, which was very easy when the world was shut down, but not so easy when things have opened back up and I have pressures on my time again. So I'm just trying hard to stick with the habit I had already formed and keep it going.
Nice. All right, also with us, we have Isabella Arnold, who is a processing clerk at our administration building. And did you make any resolutions or goals, Isabella?
I made light goals. Like, I recognize life happens, and if I don't meet my goals, it's all right. But one of my goals is to be outside more. The 1,000 hours outdoors goal, like for children, is something I know I will never accomplish because we are indoor cats. Like, give us a cozy nook in the sun and we're set. Give us books, we're good. But I recognize being outside is amazing. Like, you feel great when you're outside. So I'm trying to get my son and I outdoors more often. And then my other goal is I recently read, this is like a silly one, but apparently the best way to like not be overwhelmed by your laundry is to do a load every day. And you do one load every single day, and then you never have a build up. So that's my goal for, well, just for this month. See how it goes. Not a big commitment. Just we'll see how it goes. Today was day one. So far, my one load has actually turned into two, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So yeah, I'm hoping that it'll be nice, and then I don't spend my weekend doing 5 loads of laundry.
I like the laundry idea. See, I apparently my husband does not like how I do laundry. So, and we got married a little later. He was over 30 and I was close to 30 when we got married. So, we had been living on our own, doing our thing. So he was already doing his own laundry. I did his laundry a couple times. He was not pleased. So he does his own laundry. I do my own laundry. And Tony started doing his laundry when he was about 9.
Oh, wow.
So I still help Tony fold his. But other than that, so I feel really spoiled. I hear people talk about their stuff and I'm like, nope, I just do my end towels, and we all just kind of throw towels in as they pile up in the laundry room. So yeah, but nice. All right. And also with us this week, we have Barbara Krueger, who is the Outreach Services Coordinator, I believe. She can correct me if I got it wrong, because I always have to remember your specific job title.
That's perfectly fine. I will answer to library lady who likes to talk about the library. You can pretty much call me anything library related that you would like. My business card says Community Outreach Coordinator, but it is a privilege to be able to talk with people out in the community about the library. So this year I picked a word. I don't usually make resolutions. For the last several years, I've picked a word to concentrate on for the year. This year my word is health, and I'm looking at physical health, mental health, and financial health. And instead of picking big, lofty goals, I used a model I actually learned about in a Literary Libations with Librarians. Mandy previously spoke about the Happiness Project, so of course I had to read that. And in that book, this lady tried to make herself happier over the course of a year and broke her goals into 1-month chunks. So I've done the same thing. So for physical health, my January goal was to food journal. So every day I write down what it is I ate in what portions. In February, my goal is to do yoga every day. So in February, I will food journal and do yoga. In March, my goal is to drink more water. So in March, I will food journal and do daily yoga and drink 8 glasses of water. And my hope is that by incrementally building, I should be pretty fabulous by December. Fingers crossed.
That's such a great plan.
That's
and
awesome.
That's how they say change should happen, is in those little increments.
It also feels manageable to me. So
Yeah.
And also with us this week is Kristen Brown, a reference librarian at the Bedford branch. And did you have any goals or resolutions this year, Kristen?
My main goal for this year was to just spend more time being mindful of myself, do more reflecting. So I've started journaling in the mornings. I have like a routine in the morning now that kind of sets the tone for my day. So I do a little meditation, a little bit of journaling. I try to always have a warm beverage in the morning to kind of get me going. And so, yeah, just to set the tone for the day. And it's been going really well so far.
Nice. That sounds so cozy.
I need to have those calm vibes in the
Yes.
morning. So
Before everything goes crazy.
right.
All right. And now we're going to share some books, nonfiction specifically this week, that has changed our lives in big and small ways. And I'm going to ask Isabella if she would like to get us kicked off first.
I would love to get us kicked off first. So last night I was doing just a little bit of prep work, re-looking at these book summaries, and I thought it was funny that both had numbers in the titles. I don't know why I thought that was funny. But so last spring, probably March-ish, I read 13 Things Mentally Strong Women Don't Do. And reading this book, it seemed like it was the most perfect book for the most perfect like moment like that I needed it. And then I was amazed that I hadn't heard more about this book and that this hadn't been like required reading for like high schoolers almost. Or just like, here's your adult card, and then here's your 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do book. Because I felt like it was so, like, it was life changing in big and small ways. But I just couldn't believe how so many things that they said you should not do to be mentally strong, I was doing. And so one of the things, I'm not going to list all 13, but one of the chapters was on overthinking things. And oh man, I just am constantly running a dialogue in my head all day long of the most ridiculous things. And so they said, mentally strong people, they don't overthink things. They don't rehash the past constantly, and they don't catastrophize the future. And I was so doing that at that moment in my life because I had a new baby, and, postpartum anxiety is real. And I just kept saying to my husband, like, but what happens if our car goes over a bridge and we're sinking into an ocean? How do I get the car seat out? And he was just like, well, listen, we lost it. What bridges do we go over? What bodies of water are we near? So then I realized, ooh, I'm overthinking this. Like, we need to take back a step. And so that is just, how many times do we relive conversations that happened in the past of things that we wish we could have changed a little bit, and just realizing, oh, that doesn't need to be a part of my aura today. Just that chapter alone really changed me. And then another thing that I wasn't thinking about like intentionally, but one chapter was on, they don't put others down to lift themselves up. And just thinking about that chapter, like I really felt, I don't want to say like a sense of community, but like I felt so much more connected in reading that chapter with people around me. And instead of looking for like the little like, oh, I can't believe they did that. Oh, I can't believe they said that. I was like, oh man, yeah, you do you right now. Like, I'm going to be everybody's cheerleader. That's my new like subtitle under like my name and my email, live cheerleader for others. And I love this book. I thought it was a really great read. I had purchased it probably on my Kindle years and years before and just had never gotten to it. And then when everything shut down, I thought, ooh, this is a good time to read all my backlog on my Kindle. Because, that list is huge and I'll never read everything that's on there that I purchased on Amazon for $1.99. And so I was grateful to find it. I really think that this should be a required read for young adults and people in college and people that's starting to really decide what their life is going to be about and how they want to live their lives. Just because I feel like I came out of this book a better person, and I just read it like at 5 a.m. when I was feeding my son and late at night, and every time I would read it, I was like, oh man. But don't also know, this book is a little triggering. Like, you really think, oh, I do that, and then you think about every time that you've done it, and then you feel terrible, but then at the end of the chapter, it's all good. And it's all about building mental muscle, like making your brain, your mentality like stronger. And the author, I believe it is Anne Morin. I wrote it down. I feel so smart right now because I have my little notes. Anne Morin, and she is a psychotherapist, and she also included little like stories of like real life scenarios with some of her patients, which I thought was really, and like helped really like bring home the message for each chapter. So yeah, I love that book. I thought it was really, really good. And then my other book, 10 Arguments for Deleting Your Social Media Right Now. So my favorite thing about the library system is in our emails, we write down at the bottom what we're reading and what we have read and little blurbs. And if you didn't know about this, the library has a seed bank that Kristen Brown sent us an email about. And I saw this at the bottom of her email that she was reading this book. And I thought, oh, I need to read that too, because I have such a strong love-hate relationship with social media, because I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But I manage the social media for the River Rays and Dance Academy here in Monroe. And so I feel like I have to be on it to post for them, but I don't like it myself. And I thought, so I actually listened to this one on Hoopla. You can get it instantly. And because all of ours were out in Melcat. And I thought, I mean, it was kind of a dense read. I did give the book to my mother afterwards and was like, you need to get off Facebook and read this book. And she said, like, it was a little hard to read. Like, it was just very dense. But I thought it was the perfect listen on Hoopla. And some of the points about it that I really liked, I thought was really interesting, was how your relationship with social media also twists your relationship with truth. Because so much that's posted isn't necessarily true. And so many stories, like, it just, especially like with my mother and reading on Facebook, like it can be one separate event of when an Instapot exploded in somebody's kitchen. Oh man, so many people contacted me about getting rid of my Instapot. Because that was like a story on Facebook once upon a time. It also, he talks about how it disconnects you from the people around you that you are so-called more connected to. And so often I can remember, being on social media and being like, oh, their lives are so perfect. I want that. But it's just the one perfect photo they had on their camera roll. Like, don't compare yourself. And then it robs us of our free will with relentless targeted ads. Can't tell you how many times I've been on Instagram and like, oh, I need that pet brush to get all the hair off my couch. Now. And just realizing that you're being targeted for those ads. And they're like preying upon your weakness and your dog photos and your baby photos. And yeah, I was just and reading, listening to this book, thinking about this book, like every time I'm on my phone, it makes me realize that it's stealing my time away from being present, from being in this moment with the childhood of my son. And so we were out and about the other day, and I was looking at my Instagram and looking at baby carriers because that popped up that this discount sale on these fancy baby carriers. And like, ooh, I might need this. And then I realized, ooh, I'm missing him interacting with his dad, and it's amazing. So just kind of like realizing that, it makes me want to quit. I still have my social media because I have to for my other job. But I thought it was great for anybody that has Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I guess. I haven't used Twitter in a long time. But I thought it was great. I listened to, he has an acronym in there that I didn't really understand, but it's all right. I just made my own application for it. And then afterwards I went back and was like, what does bummer really mean? But it was good. I liked it a lot. I think that one changed me in a medium-sized way. And the other book changed me in big ways.
Nice.
His writing was a little bit hard for me to follow through. Like there were some parts where I was like, did he legitimately research this? But he was in a documentary that I watched, and he's a very interesting individual. And like, it is interesting to hear him talk about it, but oh yeah, I deleted my Facebook after I read that. Everything you said, I was like, yep, totally, like the algorithms, It's crazy.
Yeah. I just want you to know that apparently Facebook knows that I enjoy sparkly things.
Yeah, no, they do.
My favorite Facebook ad that I have ever gotten was for sparkling maple syrup. And it was literally called, I don't remember exactly, but it was like unicorn syrup. And I was like, I might need unicorn syrup. Thankfully, they were sold out because apparently other people also needed sparkly syrup.
I think that should be required reading in like high school.
Mhm.
I think absolutely that should be something, which is unfortunate that that's something that we have to do, but I think that that was a really great book to pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know some high schools do talk about your digital footprint
Mhm.
and how everything that you post, how that stays on the
Yeah.
internet.
It's just floating around for somebody to find.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Isabella.
Mhm.
And let's have Barbara share her life-changing nonfiction reads next.
Okay. Well, when you posted the question, nonfiction that has changed your life in big and small ways, my big answer was easy for me. That's going to be the Bible. And my small ways is a new book that I read. So as an adult, I'm now aware that the Bible is the best-selling book and most widely read book of all time. But that's not something I knew as a child. My first memory of the Bible is from when I was maybe 7 years old. And I thought I'd copy the Bible down to share with other people. My attempt at self-publishing involved me, a number 2 pencil, and penmanship paper, the kind with those dotted lines in the middle, and a beautifully illustrated children's Bible. Clearly, I didn't get too far, and I did not know anything about plagiarism at the time. So as I grew up, my appreciation for the Bible also grew. I've used several versions of the Bible over my life, but my favorite is the King James Version. I love the power and the poetry of the language. As a side note, I was also that kid in school who got super excited when we did Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and the rest of the class was just groaning in their seats. Over the years, I have found the Bible to be a great source of encouragement and wisdom. I use the ideas expressed in the Bible when I'm trying to make plans or decisions in my own life. Some big decisions. How do I want my family to look? How do I want to raise my kids? Some lifestyle choices. How do I want to manage my money? How do I want to spend my time? And some big philosophical things like who am I and what is my purpose here? The Bible is the book that I have enjoyed the most from childhood through adulthood. And now that my children are grown, I can now read a new book every day. I don't read one every day, but I probably read more than 5 new books a week. But the Bible is the only book that I read every day. And it is definitely the nonfiction book that has impacted my life in the biggest way. In addition to that, I have a New Year's find to share with you. This is a book that I did not read, I listened to on audio. It's called Keep It Moving, Lessons for the Rest of Your Life by Twyla Tharp. And in the audio version, she reads it herself, which I found fascinating. I was not familiar with her before I read this book. I actually picked it because I just like the title. But she's also written a book called The Creative Habit. Apparently, she is a famous ballerina and choreographer. And when she recorded the audio version of this book, she was 78 years old, and she was amazing. And she's had a very interesting life. I don't know if any other people may be familiar with her. She was new to me. But she worked with like Baryshnikov. So I feel like if I know the ballerina you're working with, that's something. So one of the things I liked about her book is I am at a phase in my life where I'm beginning to look at retirement. Like, what will that look like? How do I want that to be? And what I love that she shared is retirement shouldn't be your goal. It's not the end of the line. You should look at your life more on a continuum and see retirement as the next phase, like a new adventure to be starting. She talks about age is not the enemy, stagnation is the enemy, and I thought that was so good. She says, as we age, we take up less space, physically and metaphorically. So physically, as you age, you may lose bone mass, you may shrink, your shoulders may hunch, you may shuffle instead of taking, firm strides. Your vision narrows, and I thought all of those things applied mentally as well. She said dancers, on the other hand, and one of you can corroborate this for me, know that as your muscles stretch, you take up more space and they're taught to gesture in precise and elegant ways, and they call that amplitude. And I like that. I'm like, I think I want to live my life with amplitude. She also suggested that you make a contract with your future, acknowledge that you have choices, and then make them. And I think what sometimes mires people is the belief that life is happening to them. And I really like to be conscientious about the fact that I do have choices. Even if I choose to do nothing, I've made a choice, but they're my choices and I should go and make them. And then at the end of each section, she also has a physical exercise that goes with the topic. I will tell you, I didn't do the physical exercises, but you could. They're fabulous sounding. The other thing she mentioned that I thought was very interesting to me is called, and I had to write it down so I didn't say it incorrectly. This chapter was about Stronger for the Mending. And she talked about kintsugi, K-I-N-T-S-U-G-I. It's the art of gold mending. So it's two Japanese words. Ken means golden and suji means repair. And the idea is if you have a piece of pottery that cracks or wears out and needs to be reinforced, they use gold to make the repair. And the idea is that what I took from that is your life can be that way too. You think it's going to go one way and stuff happens. We have all had life-altering events. We're all living through COVID. But if you can look at those cracks in your life and repair them with gold and look on the bright side of them, I think that's going to be better for you. The term for that is wabi-sabi, which is also just a fun thing to say. It's the idea of embracing the flawed and imperfect. And I think as we say goodbye to 2020 and hello to 2021, I think a little wabi-sabi is going to be in my future.
I like that. Wabi-sabi. And I have seen those, the art that you were referring to with the gold mending. And I don't know where I saw it, but I was amazed at how beautiful it was. You know,
And
it doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful.
Yes, and I like the idea that the imperfect actually becomes the beautiful and the stronger part. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Barbara. Let's have Ashley share her life-changing nonfiction next.
Okay. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Braving the Wilderness by Brene Brown. I think I've talked about her before. If I haven't, I know she's been talked about on Literary Libations. So I actually own both of the books I'm going to talk about, which is weird because I don't buy books. But Braving the Wilderness is mostly about finding like true belonging and like, you know, where your path is supposed to be taking you in life. I personally always struggle with trying to figure out like where I fit in things. And I am hyper aware of that. So in this book, she kind of, I don't know, first it's okay to not like fit exactly where you think you're supposed to fit. Like we all have these ideas in our head of how life should look. And I think that is a source of a lot of unhappiness for people, because if it doesn't look the way you thought it was going to look, you know, then it's a disappointment. But she really just helped me see that it's okay to like be who you are. You don't have to fit in. You don't have to pretend to be something that you're not, first to make yourself fit in, or to like make other people comfortable. My dogs are very needy. Maybe I need a, dog parenting book on how to make them stop. But like you don't have to make yourself different to make other people around you comfortable. And sorry, he really got me distracted. He just needs to be pet constantly while the other one needs the ball thrown. There's a lot happening over here. But so that's the gist of it. It's just she helps you find the courage to try to be who you are, not who you think you should be or who others want you to be, and you know, that can be difficult. Sometimes that's saying no to friends and family because that's not something you want. I am definitely a people pleaser, and she just helps, like this book helped me see that that's not, like I don't have to be that way. It's okay. It's okay to say no. It's okay to be myself. And you know, people will love me anyways. The people, my friends, my family who love me will love me no matter who I am. If I'm pretending to be like somebody else, they'll love me for me, if that makes sense.
It does.
It does. They love your wabi-sabi.
Oh, yeah. See, exactly. The other book I read, or I'm going to talk about, is Becoming by Michelle Obama. I love her. I was obsessed with her when she was our first lady, and my obsession continued after. So kind of tying back to the social media topic, you know, everything looks perfect, right? So I feel like she led the perfect life. She always looks like her outfits are on point. Everything about her seems exactly perfect. And then you read this book, and she is so real. Some of you might not know, but like she did not want her husband to become the president. That's not something she was on board for. That's not where she thought her life would take her. But you know, that's what he wanted, and she supported him, and she found she was way more resilient than she thought she would be. So that's kind of the biggest thing that I took from this book is resilience and learning to bend when you didn't think you could bend anymore. And another thing is, while she seems to have it all together and everything looks great on paper, she's not afraid to ask for help. And if Michelle Obama can ask people for help, then I feel like anyone can ask someone for help. You know, it's okay to be real, and it's okay to try and get what you need. The other thing from this book is, again, about paths. I always had like a picture of what I thought my life would be like, but you know, you're not stuck to that. Like, just because that's what you planned, that doesn't mean you're stuck. You can change course, you can find other things, and that's okay. I don't know. That's it.
Thank you, Ashley, and Ashley's puppies.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome.
And let's have Kristen share her life-changing nonfiction.
Okay. So this one's a little tricky for me. I switched it up last minute. But my first book, I knew for sure I wanted to talk about this book, and I'm going to try not to talk about it too much, but there's just so much in this book that really resonated with me. And the funny thing is I requested this book right when I saw it came out, and then it sat on my nightstand for about a week. I was terrified to read it because I just thought, usually when people write a book, you never know what you're going to get. And I have this idea of Megan in my head, and I really admire her as a person. So I was afraid to read it at first. And then one morning I picked it up and I literally finished it in hours. Could not put it down. And she talks about so much. So it's an autobiography. She talks about her life in it. She talks about growing up with a twin sister. She has a brother. Both her and her sister were super athletic. So she touches on multiple things. And this book was so good that I literally was taking notes, not to talk about it on Literary Libations, but just because I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to write this down. I was like taking pictures of the pages, like, yes, I'm going to remember that. So she talks about multiple topics in this book. Obviously, she is an openly lesbian soccer player. So she talks about her coming out. She talks about her stance because she chose to kneel in support of Colin Kilpatrick. And she also talks about her brother having a addiction. And so one of the quotes that she talked about with her brother and the effect that that had on her family was, that really stuck out to me, was she said, "For us to be good, they must be bad." And this is a quote directly from the book. And it's not just bad, but irredeemably so. It's the classic divide and rule, them and us, and it makes rehabilitation almost impossible. It also ensures that those entering the system are out beyond the reach of our community humanity. And I was like, what? And so she just really put me in that position of like our, I'm trying to think of what the proper name is, but so our system, right? Like our the jails that we have and the people that go into them, and how we have a mental health crisis going on right now, the opioid crisis, and how there's not enough research and money going into mental health to help these people get the help that they really need. So like her brother just kept going back into jail every time he got caught, and their family tried to help him, but they didn't really have the resources. They didn't really know how. And so there was, and she's from a small town in California, so there was a lot of stigma attached to that. So that really spoke to me about that situation with her brother, and how it really impacted her and how she grew up, because she wanted to be just like her brother. When she was 5 years old, she cut her hair off, started dressing like a boy, and told her mom, I want to be just like him. And that was like kind of set the stage for her. And so he was her hero. And to have that happen, she really had to accept that and accept who he was and try to help him in whatever way that she could. She talks a lot about her process in coming out publicly and what that means to come out publicly. And I guess, from being in a different situation, I hadn't thought about the fact that it's different when you come out to your family members versus when you come out to the world, right? So whether that's on your social media or you're a celebrity. And she kind of put a call out to other celebrities, especially athletes, to also take that stance to kind of break down those stereotypes that exist within the LGBTQIA community. She definitely touches on her choice to kneel for the national anthem and how that affected her career. And so what really impacted me when she talked about that was she made note of the fact that she had privilege. And so she took that stance, and she knew that it would have a factor on her career, but she also knew that because of her white privilege, she would have a different platform. So like Colin, he took that stance and he was gone. It was like a slower process for her, and she saw the way that was happening. And the US soccer kind of gave her this ultimatum, like, you either start standing for the national anthem or you're going to be out. And so she chose to back down a little bit on that. And she says that she's still not even sure if that was the right decision, but she knew that if she had kept kneeling, she would have lost her platform and she wouldn't have been able to keep going in the direction that she was going. And so I thought that was a really interesting and honest way of approaching that, because she wasn't trying to call attention to that. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it. It wasn't like she was so proud, like, ooh, I knelt for the national anthem because I understand my white privilege. I'm trying to do what I can. It was more, I saw that Colin did it and I was addressed to the problems that are happening in our country. And I felt like it was something I needed to do. And anytime she talks about it, she always is giving credit to, I'm doing this because I see what things are happening to other people. I'm not doing it to gain more fame or more publicity on me. And then she talks a lot about feminist issues and the gender gap in US soccer, which I had no idea. I don't watch soccer, but the men's US soccer team has never won the World Cup. They have won the World Cup 3 times, and the pay gap is disgusting. And the women's soccer league has been shut down multiple times. It's just mind-boggling to me what is happening and how that's still happening today. And so another quote that she did about this real quick, that she spoke about in terms of female athletes versus male athletes, is, quote, "Female athletes, in my experience, are paid for what we've already done, while men are paid for what they could do in the future. We prove ourselves, they only have to show promise." And I was like, I feel like that's very true. And I feel like time and time again, women in all aspects of history have proven themselves. They have come, above and beyond, and yet there still is that block there. There still is that glass ceiling that needs to be shattered. And so a lot of that made a huge issue on me. she talks about how we're socialized to feel like we shouldn't ask for more. We should be happy with what we have. But she talks about, like, after they won the first World Cup or you know, something similar to that, she went and bought a Rolex, and she was like, I bought a Rolex because I'm an awesome soccer player and I worked really hard for it, and I'm going to flaunt this watch because I can, and I don't want to feel guilty about spending my money on, you know, frivolous things. And I thought, yeah, girl, okay, like, do that, buy that watch. You know, like, I feel like as women, we should be able to have that time where we are kind of just soaking it all in. Like, we have these accomplishments, we should be proud of them, we should be able to kind of flaunt them around a little bit. So she just oozes confidence in this book, and I felt like I kind of manifested through it. But she's also very humble. So she makes a point to say, like, I am not here because of just myself. Like, her family, she always talks about, like, I was just doing what I loved. I was just playing soccer. It was my family, my team, you know, all these other people that influenced me, that really pushed me to where I am today. And it is my duty and my obligation to use the platform I have to talk to other people about issues that are important. So I really appreciated that. And so my next choice, this one's going to be a lot shorter. So this book, Zero Waste House by, I think it's Bea Johnson, is the book. So I originally picked up this book from the library because I was kind of doing research on zero waste. And this book ultimately led me and my family on our journey to our zero waste. So if you're not familiar what zero waste is, it's the idea of cutting out all of as much plastic, also toxic, and single-use products that you can out of your house. So ditching the saran wrap, the plastic bags, the plastic grocery bags, even plastic Tupperware. And so I was really interested in doing this from an environmental standpoint. This book was just a jump start for me. So it had a huge impact, but the book itself, the way that she did her zero waste journey, I don't think had as big of an impact on me. She was extremely wealthy, and she talks a lot about how her and her family live in this giant house and they have all these things, and suddenly she realizes, I don't need all of this. And so we were on very different wavelengths when I first read this book. So I was like, well, I just got married, I'm not really that wealthy, and I don't have any kids yet. But so she was able to take fewer steps to get to that zero waste point than say we are. So if you are interested in zero waste and are interested in this book, I think it's a great jumping point, but I also feel like it could kind of stress you out a little bit. And so when I read that book, I didn't put myself in her position and I didn't try to compare myself with her, but I definitely took away certain things, and that ended up leading me to more research. So she just talks about things like I said before, just little things like switch out your plastic sandwich bags and just buy reusable bags, buy beeswax wraps, use mason jars, things like that. You can't do this now because of COVID, but bring your own bags to the grocery store. Don't get the plastic bags. And just being conscious of what you are bringing into your house. Instead of the 3 R's that we learned in school, use the 5 R's, which would be refuse. So stop bringing some of those things into your house. Reduce. So cut down on the things that you have. Reuse, obviously. Recycle, and rot. And so one of the biggest things that she talks about in this book that really, I thought, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do, and this is a focus that I want to stay on track with, is she said, you know, when you're throwing things away, where do those things really go? They don't just disappear just because you put them in the trash can and that trash bag gets taken out of your driveway doesn't mean it's gone forever, right? And so I think about that literally every time we throw something away. I think, can I do something else with this? To the point now where I eco-brick my plastic. So COVID made it a little bit tricky to go plastic free. So what I do is I wash my plastic, my soft plastics, and I dry them, and then I shove them in a 2-liter. And so I have just 2 liters of plastic, but then what I can do is I can build things with that. So I'm going to make like a ottoman chair, and like you can repurpose things, and you wouldn't normally think that, like, hey, that's something I can do, but there's tons of other options out there. So definitely both books made a huge impact on me. But that book kind of started my journey, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that's a book you have to read in order to do zero waste.
Thank you, Kristen. That made me stressed kind of just listening to it.
It's just such
I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't even want to think about all the waste in my home.
Well, and that's the thing though, and there's a real I don't remember what it's technically called, but there is a condition where you think about all of the waste in the world and all of the damaging things that we do to the planet, and you get anxiety. And I feel like when I first started, I had that. And so the key is just start with one thing at a time and use up what you have first. So don't just start like throwing things away. So like use up all your shampoo and then look at alternatives. See, there's shampoo that comes in like aluminum bottles. You can get bar shampoo, things like that. So
little steps
at
a time.
Nobody has to be perfect. It's like a big thing in the zero waste community. Like nobody should be perfectly zero waste, but if you're kind of zero waste, you're making it. You're doing better. So you're contributing. So
yeah. Thank you, Kristen. And then my two books are, the first is Susan Cain's Quiet: The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. And this came out, and I do identify as an introvert. And I don't know if people find that surprising or not, because I do things like this, where I'm more than willing to host and talk with people about things I'm interested in. But it also, after I do something like this, I will be ready to do non-people-y things. And usually where people are sort of defining introvert and extrovert is, do you leave interactions energized, or do you leave them needing to get energy? So an extrovert would probably come here and do the exact same thing that we're all doing, and they would leave excited and ready for the next thing. And an introvert will come to this and go, I hope my next thing is something I can do by myself. You know, like I hope the next thing is a quiet thing. I hope that it's, you know, a problem solving thing, not a brainstorming thing with other people, but a problem solving thing for me to contemplate alone for a while. And the focus of this book isn't that extroverts are bad and introverts are good, or vice versa, but that the ideal in many of our institutions, whether it's work or school or church or business or what you see on TV, the ideal has been the extrovert. They are the person that has the charisma to bring a room to them. Well, introverts can do that too. Particularly for me, looking at school and students who are not raising their hand all the time, or who are not commanding attention in some way, but yet have amazing ideas and abilities that may go unnoticed. Or even worse, they may start to feel that their ideas and abilities are not as good because they aren't as out there with them. You know, they'll look at somebody else and go, oh my goodness, you know, Joey always has a crowd around him at lunch. Not right now, Joey. But, you know, in normal times, you can have a crowd around. Joey's always got a crowd around him. People love Joey. Everybody wants to hang out with Joey. And that becomes the ideal, instead of Sue over here, who's absolutely fine with one or two people that she knows really well. But she looks at Joey and goes, I wish I were Joey, instead of being okay with being Sue. And I identified strongly with that. With, you know, I like small conversations. Quarantining was not a problem for me. Like, it was like, yeah, now I have a reason not to go anywhere. And nobody can be like, oh, what are you doing this weekend? Nothing. I'm doing nothing. That's what I'm doing all weekend. And I'm loving it. But I like that she talks about the values of both. And that in a world that seems to be created for extroverts and values extroverts, that we need to be noticing our introverted folks and appreciating them for what they do. As a manager, that's so important because it's real easy to notice what the extroverts are doing, and it can take more time to draw out my introverts who have amazing ideas, but who feel like, well, you know, Bob's idea is always the one you listen to. We need all of that to go on. And if you have an introvert in your life, listen to them if they need to recharge, you know. And she talks about all that, and she is an amazing writer, and she talks about famous introverts and how they handle that. People are complex. You can't just label, you know, introvert, extrovert, but I just thought it was really interesting that there is value in all sorts of people. And that person who may be quiet all the time might not be shy. They're just waiting until you get to a topic that they're interested in, or until you ask for their ideas. So I really enjoyed this book. I found it really interesting. I feel like I need to go back and reread it because it's been 5 or 6 years since I've read that. So how that changed me, I think it just made me more aware of understanding myself a little bit more, and more aware of understanding those around me, and learning to hopefully listen a little better. And my other one is 5 Days at Memorial. And this one we actually chose for book club several years ago. And it is about Memorial Hospital, which is in during Hurricane Katrina. Memorial Hospital was surrounded by devastation and experienced devastation itself in New Orleans. So if you remember Hurricane Katrina, power lost everywhere, homes devastated, they can't get to people. Well, Memorial was right in the middle of that. Memorial lost its power, and then it lost its backup power. It was surrounded by water, so emergency crews were having a hard time getting in there. So the only way they could get people in was through helicopter. The storm's still raging, so to try and get somebody in there and get them out safely became an issue. Communications are down. Memorial happens to be a hospital that is not run by the hospital itself, but it was run by a separate, like, third-party company who are all located not in New Orleans and are not on the property during this time. And it came down to they had people in their intensive care units that they didn't know if they could save. And there was a lawsuit brought against a couple of the nurses and a doctor that they actually euthanized 9 patients because they felt they had no other choices. And so this book explores what broke down that would have caused, one, that any doctor or nurse would be in that position to go, I can only save 20 of you. So these are the people I'm choosing to save. I can't leave you in this building here alone. We can't stay because it's not safe for us. And their choice is literally to have to give them a shot that's going to have them pass away. Really powerful book, very well researched and well written. And what it brought to me was, I think, apart from having compassion for people who are in devastating situations, was the fact that my news intake is very surface level. Even if you watch the nightly news, you're getting, what, 2 minutes of here's what's going on in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina. Here are all the people that are homeless now. Here are the people they're trying to rescue. And I'm pretty sure I never heard about Memorial when this was happening. So that 2 minutes, or now it's even just flipping through and looking at a headline. And you go into the article, and even the article may not be very long. So for me, it emphasized the importance of really good journalism when it is able to be done. I understand in the moment, you're just letting people know this is what's happening. You know, this is a crisis. We're just getting through it. But afterwards, I think it's so important to look at what happened and to try and make sure it doesn't happen again. There were some really basic things that they had looked at and said, we need to fix this, and they didn't. Like where their generator was located in such a way that when the floods came up high enough, it destroyed it. And so they lost their backup power system. And it had actually been in the plan, we need to get this replaced, we need to get this fixed, and it hadn't been done. Their communication systems, with the fact that doctors didn't feel empowered to make decisions quicker because they had to talk to the owning company, that's a problem. And it was really interesting because at the end, she compares what happened at Memorial. I want to get the name of the other, I don't know if I have the other hospital, but Memorial during Katrina and during this crisis, they lost nearly 40 people in that hospital during that 4 or 5 days. And at least 9 were suspected as purposeful deaths, and the court cases happened. And but at another hospital that was also in New Orleans and also went through the same thing where they lost their power, they lost their generator, they managed to lose 3. So this didn't have to happen. And she talks about the differences in empowering people to make decisions and trusting people to make the decisions for their patients and letting them put the patient first instead of putting the money first. It's a really powerful book. It made me look at healthcare differently, and also journalism, and how important it is that we still be willing to pay for really good journalism, whether that is a subscription to a newspaper that you know does really good, thoughtful articles, whether that is, and that might be an online subscription, whether that is through purchasing and checking out books through your library, whether it's doing really good online research with trustworthy news sources and looking at what's funding your news sources. But it's such a powerful book. I know it's not a happy, let's go pick that up, but it's really well done, and it just makes you think about our healthcare and our news sources and how important it is to get good journalism. Because I was just kind of blown away. I was like, how did I not know about this? Well, you know, it was a crisis, and then, you know, you get 2 months past the crisis and nobody talks about it anymore. And there's still so much happening. So those are my 2. Quiet and 5 days at Memorial. So thank you to all of you for participating this week. And next week, we are going to talk about books for the brokenhearted. So now this does not have to be a sad book. This could be a book that you would hand somebody and go, hey, I know you're having a hard time. This book's going to make you laugh out loud and forget about your troubles. This might be a book with hope and say, we're going to get through this one too. February happens to be National Mend a Broken Heart Month. So that is why we are doing that topic next week. So thank you to those who listen. Thank you to all of you for participating, and we'll see you next time. Bye.